Do you know anyone that has been diagnosed with anxiety or depression?
Yeah, a lot of my closest friends have both anxiety and depression.
I have had a couple friends that have said they have pretty bad anxiety or depression.
Yeah, I have a couple friends here and I have a couple friends back in high school.
Yes, I know a handful of people who actually have anxiety and or depression.
Yes, I know a lot of people who have depression or anxiety.
Have you ever been diagnosed with anxiety or depression?
Yes, I am actually diagnosed with anxiety disorder and panic disorder as well.
Yeah, I've been diagnosed with both anxiety and depression.
Yeah, when I was 9.
I have been diagnosed with both major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder.
Can you explain a typical day of dealing with anxiety or depression?
I mean, some days it's totally fine. Some days I just no motivation, no focus. Not like the idea of getting out of bed is terrible.
A typical day can be very, very hard to get through. When I'm not well medicated, I tend to have a lot of trouble getting out of bed. I have trouble eating. I can't sleep. I get shaky, and I get anxious about any and everything.
It's like an inner demon that you face every day. My days where I'm feeling very depressed, I usually don't get out of bed. It's not that I'm lazy, it's just I have no drive to do anything. If I am feeling anxious, then I usually have to step away from a situation and be alone.
A lot of my day includes certain obstacles or barriers that I have to get over.
When I'm on a good set of medication, generally my days are pretty much the same as any normal person's day.
What do you think people's perceptions are of those who have anxiety or depression?
I mean, I think that it could go two different ways. Some people are just oh, suck it up, be a prancy. But some people are just oh, that's terrible.
They don't understand. Obviously, I don't expect them to. Some of my friends tell me to just get over it. I wish that I could just take someone by the shoulders and say, this is not this is out of my control.
I think there's a general lack of understanding as far as depression and anxiety and mental illnesses in general are concerned. But I don't think that they realize in many cases that there's that slight fear that comes when you don't understand something.
I think that a lot of people are aware that it is an important issue to talk about and that a lot of people do deal with it. But I think there's the perception that because it isn't a physical illness, a lot of people tend to disregard it.
How do you think people with anxiety or depression are perceived?
I think a lot of times they can be perceived as outsiders, who just kind of don't quite fit in.
I'd say people with mental illnesses are stereotyped as people that are awkward in social interactions or need help with their day-to-day just getting around or stuff like that, and they just struggle to engage with others.
A lot of people think that if you're depressed or if you have depression that you're sad all the time, but
These people that I know that have anxiety and depression are like some of the happiest people I know, some of the most loving people. I don't know, they're just my friends and my family, so.
I feel like with anxiety you can kind of connect to people, because even though I'm not clinically diagnosed with anything, everyone has felt a little bit of anxiety. But with depression especially, it's really hard for me to understand that in any level, and it's just for both things you have to be really tender and really nice and gentle and try to be as empathetic as possible.
Do you think there's a social stigma that surrounds the topic of mental health?
Yeah, I think there is, and it's not necessarily a good thing. Something that a lot of people don't want to talk about necessarily, but it should be out in the open because I feel like nothing wrong with it.
Definitely, you're not supposed to talk about depression, you're not supposed to talk about anxiety, and that leads to a lot of suppression, and it's something that we should recognize as a society, and we don't.
I do think that there is a social stigma. I feel like people take physical disabilities a lot more serious than mental disabilities, and I feel like some people think that depression or anxiety isn't real.
I'd say mental health is something that people view in a lot of different ways. They may see it as something that shouldn't really affect somebody's life, or that could be overcome easily, and they do cause problems in people's lives, and people should look at it in a better way.
I mean, I think, like, from when I first got diagnosed to now, it's become much more acceptable to talk about, because I remember when I was in middle and high school, I'd always lie when I was going to see my counselor, but now it's much more, people are much more open about it.
I think there's a really big social stigma surrounding the topic of mental health. I think it's something that really needs to be addressed, and that's part of the reason that I try to be so open about my struggles with my family and my friends and the people around me, because I think that if people understood it better, there would be less of a stigma.
Oh, certainly, yeah, and that not just covering anxiety and depression, but I think all sorts of mental disorders. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that people tend to dismiss, or they don't necessarily see it as important, and I think that those issues have to be raised, and one person can't do it, so many people are going to have to band together and talk about it.
Is there anything you want other people to know about anxiety or depression?
Certainly. I think that people should know that even though it isn't a physical illness that can be seen on the outside, a lot of symptoms are brought on that can cause physical pain.
Just to start out with, how many people actually are affected by these illnesses, one or the other, or both. The majority of the population, the entire world, has anxiety. Millions upon millions have anxiety, and millions upon millions have depression. You know, it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. So I just want to raise awareness to the fact that it's a part of you, and it's part of, you know, humanity. And yeah, nobody is alone. I know that's so cliche, but it's true.
I think people need to understand that it's an actual illness. It's something that I can't help, and that those of us who deal with it, you know, we can't help. We're still normal, real people, just like you, going through our day-to-day lives.
It's no different than a physical disability.
It doesn't define you. A lot of people think it defines you, but it doesn't define who you are. It does if you let it, but if you don't let it, then you can be just as normal as the next person.
It's not a cool thing. It's not something that you should joke around about and just put lightly. Depression and anxiety are things that come from nothing, it seems. You don't know why you have it, you just have it. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I want people to know.
We're also sick in a sense, that just like if you have a broken bone or if you have diabetes, there are ways that we can fight it, but it's not perfect, and so it's definitely something that needs to be constantly worked against, but it can be dealt with.
students simply and frequently ask people how their day is going, how everything in their life is going, just so that person with anxiety or depression knows that other people do care about it.
I kind of actively try to fight the stigma that I see on a day-to-day basis.
And sometimes I could say I'd be quick to judge others because of that. But I'd say if you're not educated on the subject, don't judge others that suffer from it, and maybe you should learn a little more about it before you are quick to judge others.
Just educating yourself, it definitely makes me want to go and learn more about these things.
People should always be aware of these types of issues surrounding mental health and just many social issues in general. So I think that it's great that people take the time out to do these things, and that's it.